those fish were predators to other fish, and they need to be predated on some level to kind of keep things in a balance. When they overpopulate, they could destroy a whole area, and they might make it so this whole reef can't even survive. And now we're losing reefs, and reefs are also hugely important. I just learned recently that coral reefs are one of the biggest suppliers of chemotherapeutic medications.
This is Folded Curiosity.
So like a lot of these, like for example, you said the rainforest, for example, right? A lot of our medicines actually come from the Western medicines, like pharmaceutical medicines, are derived from things that are in the rainforest. Like there are resources we can gain from that.
Right.
Rainforests produce an abundant amount, or they process an abundant amount of CO2, right? And so they help with just like, global climate changes as they're naturally going to occur. I'm not, you know what I mean? Like it's just inevitable. But that part of that is having a healthy ecology and like keeping our rainforests in check. When you cut down rainforests, you can actually change the climate, the habitat. You can turn it into a rainforest can turn into a completely different habitat when it's destroyed. I mean, for like a crazy example that always blew my mind is like elephants, for example. We talked about how migration patterns aren't, they just don't have those options anymore because everything's fenced off, so they kind of get stuck in places. They either get stuck out of places or stuck in places. So in certain parts of Africa, elephants are overpopulated, other parts they're underpopulated. Okay, and so we always think about, as Americans think, we got to save the elephants, which is very real in certain areas. Like, don't get me wrong, but then you go to somewhere like Botswana, and the population of elephants is six times the carrying capacity. There's 6 times the amount of elephants that we should have there, and elephants are really rough on the land. They break down a bunch of trees, and another big one where I'm kind of going with this is like over farming, over grazing, cattle grazing, like beef or cattle ranches rather. Is a big contributor to this. They'll take something that's like a woodland or a savanna. It gets overgrazed, all the vegetation gets destroyed, and these farms are like the biggest culprit of this, destroying these habitats, right? And why we want to conserve them. They desertify it. Desertification, meaning they turn a savanna ecology with certain temperatures, humidities, and the climate factors changes into an actual desert, and it wasn't a desert. But when you get rid of the ecology of the plant species there and mow it all down and just throw a bunch of cattle there, you can actually change it into a desert. And then it just changes the water cycle there, it changes the climate there, it changes everything. It also makes it so other plants and other the native foliage and whatnot can't survive as easily there. And it's like you have to make this intentional process to turn it back into what it was, which is very complicated. It takes a very long time compared to how short it took to destroy it, essentially.
It's almost like the, was it the wolf they're talking about, and how it changes the cycle by hunting the elk and the...
Right. If it's done intelligently, like all that stuff. And like to answer your question too, like with the oceans, overfishing sharks, for example, I mean, they're a big part of our, they're like our waste management in the oceans, the sharks. I mean, other species too, but like they play a big part of the ecology. And if you get rid of sharks, even without the waste management component, then the populations, like the things they might eat, for example, say reef sharks eat certain kinds of fish. If they're not eating those fish, then the whole like life cycle, food cycle is just thrown out of whack, because then those fish were predators to other fish, and they need to be predated on some level to kind of keep things in a balance. When they overpopulate, they could destroy a whole area, and they might make it so this whole reef can't even survive. And now we're losing reefs, and reefs are also hugely important. I just learned recently that coral reefs are one of the biggest suppliers of chemotherapeutic medications. Yeah.
Reefs?
Yes,
really?
Coral reefs. Yeah, they're hugely important to just like us as humans should be motivated to protect these areas for a lot of different reasons, whether it's for a healthy climate, whether it's for resources that we want to utilize for our own reasons that we can do in a sustainable, effective way without destroying the area. And just keeping the ecology healthy. I mean, it's all going to affect us too. It's going to affect what land we can utilize. It's going to affect what resources will be available or won't be available, depending on how we destroy it or not. So like there's motivation for human, especially an expanding human civilization, to keep these things in mind, because it's just we're not going to have the same kind of resources available for our own selfish personal reasons if we don't intelligently think about how we're extracting these resources. Because at the end of the day, like, listen, you can't be like, as a human, you're ignorant or in denial or whatever you want to call it. Like, you're just not being realistic if you think, protect all the wildlife. We should never touch it. We should never touch these wildlands. Like, listen, I wish it could be like that, right? But also, like, it's just not practical. It's not possible. Like, we are going to expand our civilization. We are going to take resources from the wild and from the world, or farm them, or whatever it is we're going to do. But if we do it intelligently, we can do it sustainably and set apart like protective measures to also conserve certain areas. And I do for sure think we should conserve, nice pockets of this to just let the natural world do its thing and run its natural cycle and its natural course, so we can keep those intact. But also, we're going to be an expanding civilization that's going to take from it as well.
Thanks for watching. If you like this segment, you can catch the full episode on my channel or just click below. And if you're listening on audio or Spotify, the full video's up now on YouTube.